Well, good day to you. It is October the 27th. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are. My name is Gary Willing. I want to welcome you to Search for Signs if you are new, and welcome you back if you have been here before. Now, if you want to know more about this information, educate yourself better about it. If you want to see if there's any truth to this information for yourself, investigate it for yourself. I have included links in the description portion of these videos that take you to websites that give you really good background information about what we talk about in some way. So they're there for if you want, if you need it, if you feel like you need it, they're there. All right. Now, if you want to join the discussion, post your comment in the comment section or post your question in the comment section. You can do that too. Or if you want to email me at searchforsigns@mail.com, you can do that as well. But I want to thank those people who commented since the last time I put a video up, because if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have anything to talk about in this video. So thank you so much for doing it. But Michael Rogers, Vanessa Rivera, Maitreya, Smoke Doja, and this one's kind of long, Fonto, Oliver, Christoph Arts, and Krishnaram Yogas. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. I think that's everybody. And I look forward to comments in the future. And like I said, everyone's welcome to post their opinions or ask questions in that way. All right, now let's get on into it. Fonto, Oliver, Christoph Arts, and Krishnaram Yogas said, "It's so new age." And the only reason I'm laughing is because your name is so much longer than what you said in the comment. Most people, it's the other way around. But anyway, no, I wanted to talk about this, and you've given me a little bit of a window to be able to talk about the new age, because if somebody's going to comment like this, I'm sure, if you're like me, you have a prejudice towards that which is new age. Okay, now, I can understand why somebody would think that this is kind of grouped into that group of information about the so-called new age, right? But my impression, or if somebody were to ask me or to describe to me someone who is really into the new age, I would say somebody that's perhaps a tad bit out of step with society as a whole, maybe. Probably votes almost exclusively progressive, perhaps, uses crystals to heal themselves, burns incense for whatever reason, probably even consults with astrologers or psychics or whatever like that to make the simplest decisions to the life-altering decisions about a relationship, about money, about finances, to what is best in terms of a move, right? Now, I have found myself to be out of step with society. I do vote mainly progressive. I don't use crystals to heal myself, but at the same time, I think crystals are pretty. I have looked at my horoscope from time to time. I usually do it just for entertainment purposes, because typically when I look at the paper and read my horoscope, it's, Pisces, you'll find the love of your life. I'm like, wow, that's really good. If I was a Pisces, I'm not, but that's really good. And then I look at Leo, let's say, and it says, Leo, you're going to set the world on fire. Wow, that's really great, but I'm not a Leo. And then I get all the way down to my sign, which is Aries, and it says, try not to piss anybody off today. And then I have to remind myself that I offend people all the time, and I don't mean to, but maybe I do. So, I do follow some of those prejudices or those stereotypes, I guess, but I don't think that this information really fits into all that, because this is more scientific and more about the priorities of humanity, about what we need to do to survive on this planet and that kind of thing, versus looking at life totally mystically about the chakras, in which the chakras do exist. But anyway, maybe you get my point, maybe you don't. But I want to talk about the New Age, and what does the New Age mean? Because most people, I don't think, really have a clear understanding of it, and that's the reason why they might think and suspect that this information is kind of grouped in the same thing as a lot of other mystical, woo-woo kind of information about the New Age. So you have to kind of go back to really Einstein, to be honest, to really kind of explain it, because Einstein really broke open scientifically the understanding that all of life is energy when he intuited the equation E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. When he came up with that equation and then sought to prove it and then proved it, and other scientists are challenged in their own way to try to prove what he said to be true, he was proving the existence that all is energy, really. And that's what it amounts to. And so in the future, we'll use that mantra or that scientific equation to do all sorts of things, from creating things that are ourself, the way these masters do, to be able to think ourselves from point A to point B, the way these masters do. And it will open up the universe in a way that we don't understand today. But as of right now, we're just kind of beginning to understand that everything in life is energy. Now, these scientists might not agree with this because they haven't really been taught this yet, but that energy is not consciousness. There's a consciousness to it. And when it comes to the New Age and what the New Age means for humanity, we have to understand that those energies, that consciousness that sends those energies our way, influences the way that we think, the way that we relate to one another, the way that we build our societies at the time that it's being built. Now, the only thing we have to go on to really understand this is we only have the last 2,000 years. We don't have a lot to really go on because there hasn't been a lot of written history about the 2,000 years before that and the 2,000 years before that, because and even the written history that we do have doesn't really pertain to the consciousness of the people, to the understanding that they had at that time, to the way that they related to one another at that time. It was mainly about this group moved here, this group attacked this group, that kind of thing. So over the last 2,000 years is really all we have, which is just a tiny little sliver of what really happens when we go from what's called one age to another age. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, if you were to see our solar system, it has an orbit just like a planet has an orbit. But its orbit is a lot longer. It takes a lot longer than just a year like our little planet does around the sun. It takes 32,000-ish years to go around its orbit. And as it goes around an orbit, it comes into alignment with one constellation and then another one and then another one. It takes about 2,500 years, I think, to go through all the different constellations. And when it does, the energies from that constellation come into our sun and are stepped down on the level of our sun, and it's transmitted to all the planets in our solar system. And then the planetary life and the higher life of the masters take that energy and use it and send it over here. And this is how we start to think and how to relate to one another and eventually how to build the civilizations based on that energy. Now, the last 2,000 years, we have been under the influence of the Piscean energy, which, according to the masters, is a divine energy, just like any of these other energies, but it's entirely different than the energies of the new energies coming in from Aquarius now. And so the energies of the last 2,000 years were about building a very powerful, potent individuality, to where today we're pretty much all individuals. We all think the way that we think. We all have our own opinions about things and those kind of things. And if we were to go back 2,000 years ago at the start of the Piscean Age, before humanity really used these energies to build a powerful, potent individuality, we would encounter people that had no understanding of what it means to truly be an individual. The people who did understand that at that time dominated everybody else, ruled everybody else, sometimes to the extreme. But the people as a whole, the average person did not understand what it means, would not understand what it means if you said to them, you need to be the best person you can be, or you need to be unique, or you need to think for yourself. They would have no concept of what we were talking about. Just as some of the concepts that we are talking about today about the new energies coming in people don't have an understanding of it right now because we're still relating to the past and what we've learned over the last 2,000 years. Now, the civilization as a whole was built upon the energies of the Piscean Age. That energy of that creates an individuality, very strong individuality. To where today there's 7.5 billion people that are all individuals, all at different stages of the economic life, all living in different countries under different political regimes. But for the most part, we're all individuals. We all have our own way of thinking. We all have our own opinions about things. Some are more, overt in their opinions. Other ones keep their opinions to themselves. But we're all thinking, relatively speaking, to what it was 2,000 years ago. We're all thinking for ourselves. We still follow people and follow ideas and follow ideologies, which the masters would say we shouldn't do. We should free ourselves from those things because those ideologies were all built under the past, and that's an oppression. It's a type of oppression. Every time you follow an ideology, you're following an authoritarian, really. So there's a danger in doing that. But the real danger is the structures that we've built today, the political structures, the economic structures, especially those kind of things, are all based on competition, greed, corruption even, but it's all stemming from the fact that we all view ourselves as separate. Educational, the structures that we have put in place wherever you live in the world are all teaching us how to be a better individual, how to compete in the world, how to get ahead in the world and those kind of things, sometimes at the expense of other people and all that kind of stuff. So we're all being trained how to be an individual. And here comes these new energies that are much different. And in fact, they're almost the exact opposite ways of being used as the energies of today, which words like cooperation, synthesis, harmony, unity, oneness, peace, sharing, justice are just words to us now. We don't even understand what they mean, just as 2,000 years ago they would not understand what it means to be an individual truly. So we'll have to learn over the next 2,000 years what true unity really means, what being and acting and working in a group truly means. Right now we're just a bunch of individuals coming together. We're not even a real group, really. So that's what we're starting to see. We're starting to see some of humanity responding more and more to the new energies, and a lot of humanity still wanting to hold on to the ways of the past. Now, these masters see the world just as divided as we do, but they understand it on a different level. They understand that it's an energetic thing. It's not so much lines. I mean, it is lines of thinking, but it's not innate in humanity. It's just the way that we're using the energies that are coming in. So they have to find a balance between the progressive energies of Aquarius and the reactionary energies of Pisces, and how to react to those kind of things. Because for instance, if the progressives were allowed all the energy coming in from the constellation Aquarius right now, and that just fed them and at the expense of the reactionary forces, there would be sweeping changes all over the world, but they would be at such a pace that humanity wouldn't be able to sustain it. So the masters use these energies very consciously and they withhold and restrict and restrain energies in certain times. Other times they give the energies to humanity and those kind of things to keep us in balance, but also to kind of keep us moving forward. So that's the esoteric work of these masters. And they do it moment to moment, every day, all day, and they've been doing it ever since the dawn of time. They've been doing this, having humanity progress a little bit further, responding a little bit more to the new energies, but yet at the same time keeping things at a pace where it's acceptable. Now, where we're at today is we're at a very tumultuous time because we're seeing the convergence of these two energies that are totally, totally different. And the structures that were built upon the past of the Piscean age are crumbling, they're dying. And our world leaders don't know what to do because they keep trying to do the exact same things that worked months ago, years ago, decades ago, centuries ago, to try to still do the same thing, and they're failing every single time, moment to moment to moment. Now, if we could find some way magically to teleport ourselves back 100, 200, 300, 500 years in the past, those structures would work just fine because the energies that were around at that time were a lot stronger. The Piscean energies were a lot stronger than they are today. It's getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and these new Aquarian energies are coming in. If we were to go 500 years into the future, they wouldn't work at all. They would not function at all. None of the structures, the political structures, economic structures, healthcare, social structures, would not work at all under the light of the Aquarian energies. So these masters, and why it's important that they're coming back at this time, is because humanity needs to learn the next way forward, how to build the structures of the new that will support these new energies. Now, the energies of Aquarius really rely on justice, peace, oneness, and those kind of things, which the structures of today do not do that. So Maitreya would say that the new structures have to be built upon the foundation of the principle of sharing. That's the only way they're going to work, because the structures of the new, the energy of the new, must allow for everyone to be supported and not just a little bit of few people at the expense of the many. Now, the other thing too, there are other things in there too, like the environment. And there was somebody who commented about, let's say, electric cars, and he says they do damage, they're disastrous environmentally, is what Michael said. And he talked about it. He said he wasn't an environmentalist. And I get that. I understand why people think that. And maybe there is some truth. And that's what I was posing in the last video. Maybe there is some truth to what some of the conservative right are saying about an electric car. Maybe it isn't just so perfect for the environment. But the point is we have to start trying. Because really, the reactionary forces are trying to keep everything the same. The progressive forces are trying to move forward in a way. Now, I think they both have some things that are correct and true and other things that aren't. But, so for instance, the environment. We are harming the environment. The more greenhouse gases we emit into the atmosphere, it does heat up the atmosphere, which causes all sorts of problems. The masters talked about it. And so it is a direct result of man's misuse of the environment. Now, there's also other things, too, that we don't talk about, which is the pollution aspect of things. And where I think the environmentalists get it incorrect, especially in terms of trying to frame the narrative about the environment, is they're so focused on the political side of climate change that they're forgetting all about the pollution aspect of things. You know, they talk a little bit about the sustainability and keeping and sustaining things, but they don't focus on that. They're only focused on climate change, which is, again, very destructive, very dangerous, but at the same time, not the most destructive and the most dangerous thing that people are doing today. So we have to start trying something. That was my point. We have to do something. We can't just wait to the last second and try to pull it all together. But it doesn't mean that electric cars are the answer. It doesn't mean that, you know, not producing so much greenhouse gases is the answer. It doesn't mean that creating more regulations is the answer. But the thing of it is, and this is something that I want us all to think about if you're interested in the environment, is something that people aren't talking about. It's peace must be established first. Goodwill amongst nations, trust amongst nations, has to be established first before we can even try to tackle the environmental problem. But yet nobody's talking about that. Just as people look for, creating justice in the world, they say no justice, no peace, but they never talk about how do you get justice. Well, Maitreya would say the only way to get justice is to bring about the principle of sharing. That's the only way to do it. So if nations are needed, all nations are needed to solve the environmental problem, then they better learn how to cooperate a little bit better than they're doing today, correct? Now, I offer this always up as evidence. If you want to go look and investigate this for yourself about the Marshall Plan, it happened right after World War II for a very limited amount of time amongst just a few little bit of countries in the world. But it did bring about goodwill amongst those nations. And according to the masters, it was the first and only time, and unfortunately it didn't last very long, that the principle of sharing was at least tried. And the end result of it was miraculous because those nations that participated in it were at one point at war with one another. Now they have not attacked one another. They trust one another better. The peoples of those countries trust the people of the other countries better than they do any other countries on the planet. So Maitreya is advocating a global Marshall Plan that will be ongoing and amongst all the nations. And then once this starts, possibly, and it's just a possibility, I think it's a likelihood, but the nations would start to trust one another better, and then they would actually be able to solve the environmental problem much better. I do think that the technical aspect of the environmental conversation and the environmentalist movement may be lacking the solution, but at least the voice is starting to come in, the need is coming in there, and that's really what's important right at this moment in time is to bring the awareness of the damage that we're doing to the environment. I don't think the solution is there yet for humanity yet. And nobody's talking about the real solution, but it's going to have to start with countries cooperating better. The only way to do that, again, is to bring about the principle of sharing. These are all a part of the new energies that are coming in. So this information may seem new agey. It is of the new age, but it's of a different venue, a different quality than perhaps what the information you might have been hearing about the New Age in other books and from other people in your life or listening to other videos and something about the New Age movement, about this New Age practice or principle or that kind of thing. So hopefully this makes sense. But anyway, I really do appreciate everybody's comments. when you guys ask questions, like I said, I like to try to answer it, and it does help me build on what I want to say. So again, I couldn't do this without you. I love everyone. Thank you so much. You guys have a great day. I look forward to putting up future videos real soon. Have a great day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.